Yours.
Are we live?
I'm live. Are you live? I think you're live. What's happening? Well, I'm live. We're live on one app.
I shouldn't be allowed around technology.
Oh, you're...
Well, we have one person watching.
Probably me just being in the room.
Sorry, Laura pressed the wrong button, so we're not live there. Yay, now we're live. Okay, we're live everywhere. Hello, everybody.
I blame Laura.
I blame Laura because we blame everything on Laura. So welcome everyone to, hey Ephraim, welcome everyone to Artistic Perspectives on HIV, which is part of our kickoff to World AIDS Day observation, which began earlier today with our program where we discuss the early years of HIV, and will continue throughout this week with the kind of cornerstone centerpiece being the world premiere of Night Sweats tomorrow evening. Hope you will join us at 7:30. It is free and live on all of our social media accounts. But we are here today to look at art, not talk about performance. So welcome, everybody. I am here with my always pleasurable artistic sidekicks, Laura and Juan Carlos.
Hey!
And we are looking at a phenomenal exhibit by two Connecticut-based artists exploring themes and stories of HIV and AIDS. So this first piece that we are looking at is called In the Woods. Oh, I totally went off the piece. It's called In the Woods, and it is by Jonathan Jospeh. So you can't really tell. Well, anybody who's watched lots of our shows will know how short our walls are. And so to understand how big this piece is, because it fills...
Which makes perfect sense for the short
I think
staff.
this piece is as tall as Laura, to give you perspective.
I think it's taller than me.
And Laura is how tall? Exactly
5'1".
So this piece, as I said, is by Jonathan Jospeh. You may remember him from our exhibit Facing the Virus from 2018. So it's been a minute. Jonathan, in Facing the Virus, was focused on using his works from his Gold series, which were all pieces about living with HIV. This is a continuation of that in a new series. This is significantly more abstract work. And you will see as we go through the pieces, they actually get even more abstract than this one. I personally really like this piece. It's actually my favorite piece of Jonathan that's in this exhibit. I just think that the kind of splash of energy is extremely powerful. And I'm very curious. I'm guessing that the kind of, I see a bird, but the kind of bird-like figure that is exploding.
I think everyone should tell us what they see in the comments.
Yes.
I see like a little elephant, like...
Oh, elephant,
on
yep.
top is the
yeah.
trunk.
Yeah,
maybe?
I see the elephant.
I see storm clouds.
Storm clouds. That was a very serious answer, Laura.
I'm like that, sorry.
But I love the way that it's exploding out. I'm imagining that figure is ink. This is a mixed medium. I also really like the kind of lettering and graffiti at the bottom.
Yeah. Which I'm going to get up close so folks can see it on Instagram.
So giving you all some detail of this piece. So yes, so this piece, like I said, by Jonathan Jospeh, is called In the Woods, and is the first piece of our exhibit. And we're going to move on to our second piece.
We're going to have to get in close for this one.
So this one is called Surrender, also by Jonathan Jospeh.
I see a fish.
Yeah, this one looks like it's in a shadow box. And if you can tell, it's on paper, actually, but tacked on to looks like a canvas on the back. But yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
I just realized it was a shadow box.
Good job.
I was too busy looking at the piece
Well, that's
to
not
like
a bad
realize
thing.
that it was a shadow box, but that's really, really cool.
I you said the piece is called Surrender, right? Yeah, I think this figure, sorry, my hand. I see the figure and this kind of gasp of breath or scream or war cry. I don't know. I find it really, really powerful. I see a fish doing it, but obviously I think that's just it's abstract figure of some kind.
Looks like a person in a wheelchair to me. Like someone.
Oh,
like,
I see that
like
now.
Someone
Yeah.
who is like surrendering to their own selves and their own disabilities in a sense, and that's just what I see though.
I see that.
Yeah.
What can I say?
I saw an umbrella for a while.
Yeah, you know, we all can't be.
But that's abstract art. We all see different things.
Yeah.
So this piece, I'm gonna have to back up a little bit here, JC, because
This one is called Unvarnished Truth.
Unvarnished Truth. And again, as with the first piece, get in here so you can see the detail. There's a lot of layering of different types of paint, and this looks like it's predominantly either oil or acrylic, but also looks like there's some ink that looks like there's maybe some watercolor actually, now that I'm looking at it more carefully.
There's something that's different about this piece than the other ones as well, as this is on wood.
Yes.
The other ones are on canvas, and this is actually on wood. No canvas, no varnishing. It's all raw, which I think fits well with the title Unvarnished Truth. It's kind of showing the rawness of this piece compared to the other ones, which are, you know, on canvas. They have their varnish on them, and again, this is kind of a more just deeper insight in a sense.
Well, and I will say that having been a part of the conversation earlier today about kind of the early years of HIV, this is very much giving me kind of what some of the speakers were talking about, the kind of like roller coaster of emotion of being diagnosed, and the kind of really expansive nature of having that experience, and kind of how your life is forever changed in so many ways. And that's kind of what I'm getting here, is that kind of chaotic energy that comes out when you have that moment.
Yeah.
And for anybody who's watching and who's ever gone for an HIV test, regardless of what the result, that the days, the hours, however long it takes is
Get the results.
it's some of the most stressful moments in life, in my experience.
Yeah.
You know, even if you're 100% sure you know what the result's going to be, it's still
that stigma and that shame that, you know, so many people carry still, like, you know, peeks out like some of the white that you see in the painting.
So now we're going to move to our fourth piece. All these so far everything's been by Jonathan. I promise you there is a second artist.
So this one is called Grit.
Grit.
So this one, you can see there's kind of like a little bit of 3D aspects in here. If you come a little closer, you can kind of see it. You know, everyone has their own perspective, but I kind of see this as blood almost. It's a little more 3D, these areas right here, than everything else. You have your darkness down here. But again, there's all this different texture inside of this one. It's like this half is almost completely different than this half, which I think is really dope.
Yeah, we were talking about it earlier, and I was talking about how it reminded me of like the sun coming in, like dawn. Which reminds me of like sort of Bubbles' painting from last show, which funny enough was right in this location.
Oh, I know, right?
Which was Bubbles was here, and then there was a light sort of on the tunnel. So for me, it like really sort of mimics that, but in like an abstract sort of mode. That same feeling of like walking towards a better tomorrow or a better outcome.
Yeah. Again, I like the graffiti work on this, that you can almost not see when you aren't, like I can see it really well as I look through the screen, but in person, it's much more subtle, and I really like that. It gives it a lot of depth. And for those of you who may have just joined us, because I just jump in watchers, I want to let you know we are currently going on the virtual tour of the exhibit Artistic Perspectives on HIV, featuring works by Jonathan Jospeh and John Suro. We are excited about this exhibit. This is part of our World AIDS Day observation that runs through Thursday. You can see more about this show and about the rest of the week's activities at newhavenpridecenter.org/World AIDS Day. I also want to remind everybody, because we haven't said this yet, and we usually do it a lot sooner, everything is for sale!
Everything is for sale. That's what I was just going to say. You can email me, Laura Bocadoro, at lboccadoro@newhavenpridecenter.org if you have any inquiries about purchasing prices or want to put a piece on hold.
Any of them.
Any of them.
And hi, Laura's mom. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Mom.
And thank you, Deborah, for telling us that this art is amazing. It is amazing. You are right. Okay, I have to step back because we got another big one that's the size of Laura again.
So this one is called Stolen Moment. Something I think is really cool about this one, again, it's kind of the different textures. This whole area in here is, again, poking out a bit. And you have this kind of more like grotesque section right down here. You can see on the other side as well, there's a bunch of repetition, more graffiti work.
And this painting's big. This is Jonathan works on a lot of different scales. If you saw his work that was with us for Facing the Virus, all of his paintings are about this size. But he also has paintings that are, 8 feet high, which is, I don't know, I can't really comprehend how you paint something that big personally. But yeah, this is a really cool piece. This is where I feel like of all the pieces where the graffiti has really taken over. Mm-hmm. And because it looks like this like layered wall of art and inspiration and perspective. And again, thinking back to the conversation that we had this morning is, kind of thinking through the depth of experience that HIV people have with HIV. Just the panelists this morning, all of whom became positive, well, not all of them, but those on the panel who were positive, became positive around the same time period, but had very different experiences. And I think that speaks to the depth of this piece, is how experience and perspective can be vastly different.
Well, I also think the graffiti is really cool in this one because you can almost read what it says, but you can't quite, and it kind of innuendos to that whole sense of trying to gather your thoughts. You know what you're feeling, you know how you're thinking, but how do I experience this? How do I put this in real words? How do I put this out into the real world? And again, the stigma that we were talking about before, the shame that comes behind all of this, how do I reiterate that? How do I talk about that? Yeah.
So now we're going to get to our first piece by John Suro, and it is called Denied. I'm going to go down. It's called Denied, and you will see as it, oh no, our battery stopped. As it turns, thank you, Laura, handy assistant. These on the medicine bottles are the words denied, but certain letters are marked differently. And so as it goes around, you end up with the white letters spelling died. This is a super powerful, I think right now, perspective on how our healthcare system and how our healthcare system is in many ways failing most people. And particularly as the Supreme Court and other folks are exploring what they want to do around the Affordable Care Act and other issues around healthcare and providing support to people experiencing hardship from COVID-19. I think there's a lot of power to this piece. There's also something to be said about kind of the pharmaceutical industry and its role in preserving or not preserving life, and how so many people, particularly queer people, experience a lot of inequities around medicine and healthcare, and I think it's just a really important point to make.
So there's actually 3 words within this. It's denied, and then there's die, and then there's end.
Oh, yeah.
So you see D-E-N, there's die in the white, and end is in the black.
And just to also say that the white bottle in the middle is actually a HIV medicine bottle, which again reinforces that commentary about the real challenges that being HIV positive brings. I mean, you know, a lot of people now, and we talked about this on the panel earlier, think about HIV as like, oh, you pop a pill and you're fine now, but that's not necessarily the truth, and that's not necessarily the experience of many, many people. It's something local activist Alex Garbera talks about all the time, is that, yes, if you are of a certain income level and have access to certain kinds of healthcare, you have access to life-saving medicine. But if you are not in that bracket or slip in and out of that bracket, you can oftentimes lose your life-saving medication. So anyway, after that heavy moment.
So we are back to one of Jonathan Joseph's pieces, the last one in our show, and this one's called The Missing Truth. So this one's a little bit different than the other ones in the sense of, you can see it's actually damaged up here on purpose.
We didn't do that installing, we promise.
And then again, this one has even more of that texture that was coming out in some of the other pieces. And again, we come back to this graffiti-esque almost lettering per se, and again, it's all mishmash. You can't really read it.
It looks like a signature. It's like John Hancock.
Oh, fair. It does kind of look like a signature.
I've been watching a lot of history stuff lately, and so I'm seeing John Hancock's signature. But no, joking aside, you know,
it almost looks like wording, like some of the texture is actually wording if you look sideways, like right up here, up there as well.
And just to also say, for those of you watching, if you have nothing to do in about an hour, we're going to be sitting down with both John and John. Both Johns. Spelled differently, though. We're going to be sitting down with John and John for an artist talk about this exhibit, how art can bring attention to social issues, including HIV and AIDS, and a lot about how the personal narratives and meanings behind many of these pieces and other pieces that are part of their artistic repertoires. So now we're going to go over to this piece, which is called, I just totally missed it with my camera, Peter. So I'm gonna start straight on, and then I'm going to move around so you can kind of see what this is. So you'll see this is a tire that is melted. And then if I get super close, the tire is full of nails. So this piece, which is called Peter. Hi, Juan Carlos, you're in my camera.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. So this piece that's called Peter is actually in honor and tribute to John's first partner, who unfortunately died from HIV and AIDS. And the tire is meant to represent Peter and the kind of experience that one has. Sorry, I'm trying not to step on something. When they're living with HIV and dying from HIV. And the nails that are inside the tire are meant to represent the virus. And it's kind of a really intense analogy when you think about how much damage one nail can do to a tire.
And how many nails are inside the tire, yeah.
Exactly.
It really gives you opens your eye a little bit more to how damaging, this disease is and how quickly it can take people.
And I think, part of the power behind this piece. So I will say when John applied, this was the reason why I invited John to be a part of exhibiting this year during the center. Because I just thought that this piece was kind of brilliant and just extremely emotionally raw. I have many friends that live with HIV. My gay son is HIV positive and a huge activist, and it's I don't know, it just hits you in the gut.
Yeah. It really it's an eye opener. You can't ignore the facts behind that piece.
Well, and I think it's the other thing to say is that and where this exhibit becomes very important is again, not to harp or use Alex Garbera as the constant expert, but, today Alex said at the end of the conversation, what do you want viewers to think about as they're watching this? And that is that HIV is still here, and it still kills, and it's still just as present as it might have been in the 80s and 90s. And, I think many of us live in a comfort of forgetting what the 80s were like and what, because we didn't experience it. And I think there's a lot of real experience that you feel immediately once you understand this piece of art. And then our final piece of I don't know if I have to go around the couch. The final piece of this exhibit, which is the largest installation we've ever had in the center. This one's definitely bigger than Laura. I think it's quite possibly bigger than the entire staff if we were to all stand in front of it.
Except for Maya.
Except for Maya. It might be a little shorter than Maya, our height expert.
Well, this one is called With Every Fiber of Your Being.
And so I'm going to give you all a wide shot, and then I'm actually going to go in so you can see some of the incredible detail. JC, do you have any thoughts? I feel like I've been consuming a lot of space.
No, I mean, these are just great. I mean, it's just I think these are so emotional, and there's so much emotion poured into them that it's kind of hard to talk about in a weird way, because when you're looking at it, you're just kind of feeling that. So those things are kind of hard to talk about, right? Because it's just so personal, and art like this, I kind of like people to experience and just look at that and connect with it.
Yeah, it's definitely more of an emotional. It's easier to explain through your emotions than it is through words, because the whole point of it is the emotional impact it has on you.
Right.
And that's the whole point of the art is hitting that vulnerable spot.
I mean, for me, this is really just the human journey, how we're start quote unquote being put together, and as we go on, we start to kind of unravel. And I mean, it's really cool because it has so much texture, and some places it goes sort of horizontal and diagonal, and then vertical in other places, and has more 3D effects to it.
And so this piece is by John Suro again. And I did ask John about this piece, and one of the things he said, there's been a couple versions of this piece. But one of the, one of the things that he said that really this piece is about the struggle of wanting to survive, the struggle of wanting to beat the virus. And then, that kind of struggle of putting your entire soul into. And then once that moment is over, the kind of transcending into the higher plane, into the next existence, whatever your belief system is.
Yeah, if you look at it from the bottom up, yeah.
Kind of get that experience,
yeah,
right?
And then but it's funny, right? Because this is the interesting thing about
conceptual art,
right? It's that you bring so much of yourself to what, in terms of what you've experienced, right? So someone who may have experienced really rough life, right, may see it from the bottom up, oh, this is sort of something that's tattered, going together to a higher plane kind of thing. Someone who may not have a similar experience, may be oh, life starts out great, and then it kind of
tatters away.
Right? So it's about kind of what you bring into it, which is what's fascinating about a lot of this art.
Yeah. So we're going to leave you all with this piece because this piece is super, super powerful. Again, I want to invite all of you to join us while we sit down with John and John at 6 p.m. today, live on social media. We will be discussing this piece and all of the pieces in the exhibit, as well as their larger body of work. This, again, is a part of World AIDS Day Observation, which is going through Thursday. You can learn more at newhavenpridecenter.org/World AIDS Day. I also, of course, have to give shout out to the amazing people who make these exhibits possible. which includes the Arts Council of Greater New Haven, the Community Foundation of Greater New Haven, the Department of Arts, Culture, and Tourism for the City of New Haven, and then, of course, our very special partners on all of our World AIDS Day programming, which includes the New Haven Mayor's Task Force on AIDS and Guardian Health. And, of course, I can't not say thank you to healthcare advocates who really made all of the World AIDS Day funding possible with their sponsorship this year. So a special shout out to them.
And another, just to say again, everything is for sale in the show. And again, you can email me, Laura Boccadoro, at lboccadoro@newhavenpridecenter.org if you have any questions about pricing or if you want to purchase any of these pieces.
Yeah, so thank you everybody for joining us, and we hope to see you in virtual space and one day for you to experience all of this beautiful art in person again once we can do so. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.